In this video, I'm going to show you how to tie 3 of the best beach fishing rigs so you can take your beach fishing to the next level. Let's get straight into it. For this first rig, all you need is some monofilament or fluorocarbon leader line, a swivel to reduce line twist, hooks suitable for whatever type of bait you plan on using, a sliding clip for your sinker, 2 soft beads, and either a teardrop or a star sinker. We're going to start by feeding one of the glow beads onto our main line. Now for this video, I'm using a braid just because it's easier for you guys to see. So we've got 1 bead, then we're going to feed on our sliding clip for our sinker weight, followed by the other glow bead like so. And then we want to tie our main line to one side of the swivel. Now I like to use the uni knot for this. If you're also using a uni knot and your main line is a braid line, just remember you need to do an extra couple of wraps. Do 7 to 8 wraps in total, otherwise it can slip. But if you're just using a mono line, 4 to 5 wraps is plenty. Also, when you're tightening your knot, if you're using mono, you need to make sure you lubricate the line so it doesn't singe, whereas with braid, you won't have that issue. So now we'll cut the tag off. Okay, now what this does is, let's say for example we're using the star sinker for this rig. Once we add the weight, the sinker will go to the bottom and hold your bait in place, but when the fish takes your bait, you can still take the line and it will just pass through that sliding clip and the fish won't feel the weight of your sinker until it's taken enough line for your drag to kick in. Now the reason we put a bead on either side of the clip is, one, protects the tip of your rod, just in case the clip bumps into the tip of your rod if you're not paying attention. And the other is to protect the knot that's tied to your swivel. So you've got something soft in between the hard plastic clip and the knot you've got tied to your swivel. Now the next step would just be to tie our leader onto the other side of the swivel. Again, I'm going to be using the uni knot for this. And obviously with the leader line, you don't need as many wraps as you do with the braid. So 4 or 5 wraps would be plenty. But before you pull it tight, because it's a leader material, not a braid material, you will need to lubricate your line and the knot to make sure it doesn't singe from the friction when you're pulling it tight. Then we'll just set that knot. I generally like to keep my leader about 1 meter long for these rigs. And finally, we just tie on the hook. The hook which is most suitable for whatever bait you plan on using. You're going to notice that I use uni knots for pretty much everything when it comes to attaching tackle to my lines. Never had an issue with the uni knot. It's a really reliable, solid knot, but you can use whichever knot you're most comfortable with. The strongest knot is always the knot that you tie best. So now we just cut our tag ends. So that's the rig done. We've got the sliding clip with a bead on either side on your main line, sinker attached to the sliding clip, main line tied to the swivel, and then about 1 meter of leader with the hook that's most suitable for whatever bait you plan on using. Now for the next rig, all you'll need is some monofilament or fluorocarbon leader line, a cross line or 3-way swivel, hooks that are going to be most suitable for whatever bait you plan on using, and a teardrop, a star, or a snapper lead. Either one of these 3 works well. Now to start, we want to attach a leader to the bottom of the cross line swivel using whichever knot you're most comfortable with. The next step would be to attach our sinker weight. Now to do this, I'm going to use a dropper loop. To make a dropper loop, you just want to fold your line like so. And then you want to create a loop like this. And then you want to pass the line through the loop 2 or 3 times. Like so. And then you want to lubricate the line before you pull it tight. And then you can pull it nice and tight. Now we just cut the tag ends off to make it easier to work. Now the reason you want your line that's holding your sinker on to be as short as possible is because once you add your leader line that your hook's going to be attached to, in the water, the lines can wrap around each other. So to prevent that, you want to make the line that's holding your weight on as short as possible. So now we'll just add our weight onto the dropper loop by feeding it through the eye of the sinker, wrapping it around, pulling it through. That's our weight. That's our sinker sorted. Now we want to tie on our leader for our hook. Again, I like to use about 1 meter with a leader, like so. So we'll just tie that on. Like this. Lubricate our line to make sure the friction doesn't singe it and weaken our knot, like so. Now we just want to add our hook on. I'm going to use a union knot once again. So just do 4 wraps. There we go. Lubricate the line. Pull the knot nice and tight. Now we cut our tag ends off. Like so. Now the final step would just basically be to tie your main line to the top of the swivel. And that's our second rig done. So we've got our main line to the top of the cross line swivel, and then we have a dropper loop for our weight, sinker weight to the bottom, and then off to the side we have our leader to our hook. Now for our final rig, all you're going to need is some monofilament or fluorocarbon leader line, a swivel to reduce line twist, a star, teardrop or snapper lead for our weight, and some hooks suitable for whatever type of bait you plan on using. Now for this rig, we're going to start with a dropper loop. So to create a dropper loop, we're just going to fold our line like so, and then we're going to create a loop, and then we're going to wrap the line through that loop 2 to 3 times. And then before we pull it tight, we want to lubricate the knot and the line to make sure that we don't singe the line, which will weaken it. And that is our dropper loop done. We'll just cut the tag end off. Now we just want to attach our weight by feeding the dropper loop through the eye of the weight, pulling it through and making sure the line goes around the weight, and then you just pull it, and that's our weight attached. Now the second step, you want to leave about 30 centimeters worth of line, and then you want to fold your line like so, and then you want to create a loop like this, and then wrap the line through that loop. This time we're going to wrap it 5 times in total, around both lines and through that loop like this. And then we want to put a bit of tension, and then we want to lubricate that line before we actually pull it tight to make sure we don't singe our line, like so. Now that we've got a dropper loop, we want to turn this into a T-knot, which will be way stronger. So you want to grab both sides of the line like so, create a loop, hold both lines parallel to each other so that they're beside each other, and then you want to wrap the lines around each other a total of 6 times, like so. Then you want to pass this dropper loop through the gap like so, and slowly tighten it. But before you actually pull it tight, you want to make sure that the knot for the dropper loop has also passed through the gap. So for example, now the knot hasn't passed through. You want to make sure that you feed it through, otherwise the knot's not going to work. So now, as you can see, the knot's passed through that gap. You want to lubricate the lines. You want to lubricate the lines really well, both sides. And then you can slowly tension the line by pulling on both sides at the same time. Add some good tension. And then that gives us a nice T-knot to attach our hooks to. Now the good thing about T-knots is they're really good at keeping your dropper loop away from your main line so that it doesn't tangle. Now to put your hook onto a dropper loop, you just want to pinch the end like so, and then just feed it through the eye of the hook. Make sure you pull the line over and around the hook, and then just pull it back on. Now once your hook's on, you can either leave about 1/2 meter and then cut your leader like so, and just tie a swivel on and then you're pretty much done. Or you can leave another 1 foot or 30 centimeter space and tie another dropper loop if you want to fish with 2 hooks. Now I like to use a single hook because I don't want to catch 2 fish at the same time that are going to be pulling in opposite directions, because that can weaken your line and then you can have some bust offs, especially because you're pulling from the other end as well. So I generally like to stick with a single hook. Now we just cut our tag once we've tied our swivel on. And then the only thing left to do is attach your main line to the other end of the swivel. And that would be our 3rd rig done. So another union knot, which I'm guessing you guys would have guessed. Pull that tight. Cut the tag. And that's our 3rd rig all done. So you got main line to the swivel, swivel to your leader, got a dropper loop, which holds our hook, about a 30 centimeter gap, and then another dropper loop, which holds our sinker. I hope you guys found this video helpful, and I'll catch you in the next one.